Our guest today on the bridge is Sting. 17 Grammys, a Golden Globe, and Emmy, inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. And as far as record sales, how about over 100 million albums sold? Thanks so much for taking the time to join us today,
It's
Sting.
my pleasure, John.
I feel like we almost have like this shared thing now because the new album is called The Bridge. It's the name of the radio station. It's available on CD, vinyl, cassette, streaming, download. So joint custody, I guess, maybe is a way to look at this. In any case, you can find out more at thebridge.sting.com. And I certainly don't want to, equate in any way the name of a radio station with the title of a body of artistic work. But I do feel like we both came to the bridge for kind of the same reasons, just the way that word implies connection.
Yeah, it does. I mean, it's a very interesting metaphor because on the record itself, I'm writing about characters in transition between life and death, between health and sickness, between relationships, between worlds, all looking for the bridge to the future, looking for some connection to a place that's safer and happier. And all of us, of course, are in that situation, in the pandemic, in the climate crises, in the political crisis we're in at the moment. We're looking for that bridge. And so that was the last song I wrote. And I realized that was the connective tissue that joined everything together.
Yeah, the other thing you kind of mentioned it, and I really wanted you to expand on that a little bit. So often, the characters in your song start in one place and end in another, and bridge also kind of connotates, movement forward.
Well, the other meaning of the bridge is a musical bridge in a song, the middle eight, where suddenly you get a slightly different viewpoint to the one you've been singing about, and maybe things aren't so bad after all, and then it goes to a key change and a coda, and songs are a kind of therapy, psychological therapy. Whereas a song without a bridge, it just goes round and round in a circular motion. It never gets anywhere. So the bridge as a musical form is a very, very useful one for you psychologically, certainly for me.
As you were working on this album, themes started to emerge, and my understanding is that the title track, The Bridge, kind of helped unify some of the things that you started to notice coming together.
Yeah, it was the last thing I wrote. And I realized I really wanted to pin that down and say, this record is about connection.
Sting is our guest today on The Bridge. The new album is called The Bridge, and it was written and recorded during lockdown. I was thinking about, so much of your life has been spent on the road. Had to be strange spending such an extended amount of time at home.
In the same bed, 2 or 3 nights running. It's quite amazing.
Yeah.
But, and my wife and we spent a year together every day, and we're still married. So there's a miracle for you.
Yeah.
And it was wonderful, actually.
You've always had that drive, though, and you even applied it to the pandemic. You were in the studio 10:30 every morning, working into the evening, and that was really the way that this album came together. Even though some of the musicians that may have been in the room for a different project were working with you remotely this time.
Well, I thought of it as an opportunity rather than an imposition, and making an album is pretty much like being cloistered in lockdown. You're stuck in one room with a limited number of people, and you have to work to stay sane. So, yeah, I just moved the whole thing along.
One of the early tracks that's gotten a lot of attention is "Rushing Water," and water seems to be a recurring theme in the album. And one of the things that I was really surprised at in some of the materials I was looking at, you were talking about how water to you has feminine qualities.
Mm-hmm. I think traditionally water symbolizes the feminine. It also symbolizes the subconscious, and they're both facets of life that intrigue me. That's my muse, if you like. The submersion in water is a dangerous thing, immersing yourself in water, but it's also very, very healthful. And for me, it's almost ritual. Every morning I start my day swimming in cold water, and I find that's when it wakes me up. It's very healthy, but it also, just for my soul, it's kind of cleansing. It's kind of a sacrament.
Sting is our guest today on The Bridge. The new album, The Bridge, is available in a 13-track deluxe CD and vinyl that's available at Target. Also, that particular version has Sitting on the Dock of the Bay, a really nice Otis Redding cover. And there's a Japanese version floating around out there as well that has Lord Must Be in New York City, the Harry Nilsson song, a really beautiful cover there. So look around, find the gems on this new release from Sting. You know, one of the things when I was listening to the album, it just feels like so many of the different moments of your career are encapsulated in this album. You really are not afraid of any genre at all.
I don't take them seriously. You know, for me, music is a spectrum, and I work with musicians who feel the same way. They're equally happy playing a classical piece as they are playing a piece of jazz or a piece of pop music or the blues. You know, it's a musical spectrum. I respect the pure forms of those genres, but that's not what I do. It's, for me, sparks fly when you cross-pollinate, when one spark flies from one genre to the next. That's where it's interesting for me. Between worlds, as I say, I'm looking for those bridges.
You know, it's so funny because when we first got to know you through The Police, you all sort of entered the cultural zeitgeist in the punk era. And the idea that you came from jazz, and that even to this day, one of your heroes on an ongoing basis is Bach.
Absolutely. Played him this morning.
You know, and it's just, I think that would surprise some people who haven't done the deep dive into you. It's we've talked about this before. You value surprise so much in your music, and correct me if I'm wrong, but you just feel like there are so many surprises in what Bach does.
Absolutely. Every 8 bars, you'll be surprised by a decision he makes, and that's why he's a teacher. You know, you sit down and you play a piece of Bach and you're surprised constantly. That's the essence of music, to be surprised. As soon as you know what's going to happen next, you're bored. I certainly am. So surprise is the essence of all art, especially music.
You know, the classical music that you listen to and practice, it really shows up in your music as well, and maybe not in the way that people would think. It doesn't sound always like classical music, but you really play around more than most people in popular music with time signatures and chord changes, looking for that one little edge for a song.
You know, we steal from the best. All musicians do, and the classical canon is very rich indeed.
So looking for surprise, how about you showing up on the new Steve Martin and Martin short series, Only Murders in the Building? That's got to have been a little bit different for you.
Well, I live in that building, but the idea that I could have committed that murder is ridiculous, of course. I'm totally innocent. So
we'll take you on faith. I have to say, it's a brilliant new record, Sting, The Bridge, and as I mentioned earlier, out on a lot of different formats and a lot of different places for you to check out. But there's also live music that is out there as well. And you actually have started doing the occasional Las Vegas residency.
I have. I was there in October, and a little apprehensive at first. I'm not sure who I was going to be playing to, maybe some blasé tourists, but no. This was a Sting audience, and they were standing up and shouting and screaming and dancing the whole time. So I'm going back in June, and then I'm going to go back there again in November. Really looking forward to it. It's a fabulous occasion for me.
But that's not exactly stopping you from doing other touring, is it?
Oh, no. I mean, you do these 3-week pods. It's not like it was in the old days where you had to be there for months and months on end. You do 3 weekends in a row, and then you just keep doing that as you need to. But I'm touring in Europe in the springtime, and then I'll be back in America as well. But it's just something different.
You know, before we go, I did want you to comment on one more song for me. One of the other songs that's getting a lot of attention off the record, If It's Love. And it's Love is an Illness is basically the shorthand for it.
Well, I mean, I can't claim originality in that idea. You know, love sickness. I think the French call it foudre d'amour. You know, it's an old trope, but you know, in the pandemic, there's a kind of wry irony there that love is a sickness too. So it's an ironic song and a song to make people happy, I hope.
Well, I have to say it's a spectacular album, and it's not only worth getting, but it's also worth hunting down some of these versions that have extra songs, and you can find them all online. There's the Target exclusive, and the Japanese version you can find through Amazon. It's all such beautiful music, and there's also a ton of really great content at thebridge.sting.com. Sting, I know you don't have to do this, and we so appreciate the time to get a little bit deeper into this new record, The Bridge, today here on the radio station that now we're just named after your album.
It's my pleasure, John. Really great to talk to you.
Sting today on The Bridge.
God bless.